Laura, how are you doing?
Yes, hello. Hi. There we go. I can hear. Sorry.
Laura, thank you so much for joining us today on such a short notice. So we're still helping some of our friends to join our weekly meeting.
Okay.
Our audience are from different parts of the world. They're from the US, UK, Europe, and some are here also from Palestine and Israel. Some of the people are joining us also from Jerusalem.
Okay.
We also have Holland and France and so on. So please, it's just difficult to mention every country and so on.
Okay, no problem.
So just a reminder for our audiences, if there's new people who are joining us today, these meetings get recorded because not everybody who wants to see them ends up seeing them. They are able to do it this time. So if you have a problem of being showed, your camera, you don't want to be seen in a recorded video, just switch off your camera feed. Laura, you're joining us from Jerusalem?
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Nice. Today, I don't know if it's for the people who are not in Jerusalem. Today we haven't had so much rain this winter, but today we've had some rain in Jerusalem. I don't know about the rest of the country, but in Jerusalem, at some times during the day, it rained a lot, which is a reminder that we are in winter, which is also we are at war. That's another reminder for us, but I think winter is not part of it. There's so many things taking place in the world, sadly, but also here in Palestine, Israel. It's been over 110 days now, close to 110 days since October 7th, and it seems like we're in a continuous nightmare. I don't know, we feel it's a nightmare, and I personally haven't lost any loved ones close to me, so I can imagine the people who are with lost loved ones or are directly affected by the war and the violence, how they feel. But it's a reminder. Sabil, we started Kumi. Kumi is a word, means stand up, rise up. I think it's close to Hebrew. I don't speak Hebrew, unfortunately, but I speak Arabic, and it's also an Aramaic word. It was also mentioned that Jesus mentioned it in the Bible, but in Hebrew, it's also like Kumi. How do you say it in...
Yes, it's a Kumi is, you'd say to a woman, kum, or Kumi is to rise up.
Yes, so it's the story is about when everybody thought that the little girl was dead or very sick and it was beyond healing, that Jesus tells her Kumi, so it is rise up, and that's the idea. It is to empower people to rise up against all forms of injustice, never to feel helpless. So there always should be hope. We're still getting people to join us, but it has been a tradition at the Sabil Kumi sessions is we have the speakers introduce themselves. But before we give you this, I just need to say that I don't know if you remember the first time you met me. Do you remember, Laura? Or
you told me that you were a journalist, that we met in the context of you working as a journalist.
No,
right?
no, Laura.
No.
I met you because I had friends from Al Jazeera English, and they were doing a documentary about Jerusalem, and we met. We had a friend, Dr. Mair. You know him, Dr. Mair? Yes. And he mentioned that you should meet with Laura, and we came to the municipality in Jerusalem where you work, and that was the first time we met. I can't remember, it was like 2017, 18, maybe 16, I can't remember exact days. COVID has also stolen many years of our lives. So that's when the first time we've met. But if you are in Jerusalem and you are and you work or you attend meetings that both Palestinians and Israelis meet, and they meet to address issues that are taking place in Jerusalem, whether it's trying to build bridges, most likely the most common face you will see is Laura. Laura is always present. She's always present, and she's she's present and trying to defend the rights of all of the people in Jerusalem, but especially I feel your presence within the Palestinian community of East Jerusalem. So, but that is my version of the introduction. But please do introduce yourself.
Okay, well, thank you. I was born in the United States. I'm in New Jersey, just outside of Manhattan, where my parents worked. I'm Jewish, and I grew up thinking about that and being aware of that. And when I finished college, I moved to Israel, originally to Jerusalem, and I served in the army. I became a member of a kibbutz and was a member of a kibbutz for more than a decade. And then I ended up moving back with my husband to Jerusalem with our children, and becoming active politically in Jerusalem. What's always been important to me is the equality. My first political activity was on public housing, because there are and were homeless people, or a lot of very poor people in Jerusalem. So I worked on passing what became quite a revolutionary law, the public housing law. But eventually I was elected to serve on the city council from the party Meretz, which is a party slightly to the left of the Labour Party that believes, among other things, inequality very
to the
much.
left or to the very much
Sorry?
left? It's as left as
the
you
left.
can get in the Israeli Knesset, yes.
Oh, well, there's Hadash, there's the Communist Party, there are others, but we're left to the Labour Party. And we, as I said, principally believe in inequality. So I work for all kinds of populations, but especially in Jerusalem, 40% of the population is Palestinian, and most of the Palestinians live below the poverty line. So I spend a lot of time trying to help Palestinians, both in terms of equality, but also because another thing that's important to my party and to me is a two-state solution. And I think I know how important it was for the Jewish people to have a Jewish state. I think the Palestinians should have a Palestinian state. While at the same time, as long as Israel is controlling East Jerusalem, I think we should do everything we can to guarantee equality to Palestinians that live under Israeli sovereignty, whether it's only for the time being or permanently, or as I hope eventually the Palestinians will have their own state, and part of Jerusalem at least will be its capital. So that's my background. The job that I have, or the role that I play in the city council as a member of the city council, is a volunteer job. My job that enables me to support myself is as a teacher at Hebrew University. I teach political science there. I did first degree in the United States and a master's and PhD at Hebrew University, where I teach. So that's pretty much what's important to me. And I also do a lot of work, and actually I teach a course on religion and state. And that's another thing that ties in, because I think that it's very important that Jerusalem be tolerant and supportive of all religions, and not try to force religion, or certainly not any particular religion, on anyone. So it's another way that I tie into a lot of work with Christians and Muslims in Jerusalem, because I want to be sure that, and it's not taken for granted, and in fact does not always happen in Jerusalem, but that everyone will be able to practice their religion freely, and that they will get supportive and the rights that everyone should get for their religion, to practice their religion. So I have a lot of contacts in East Jerusalem, both because of my work on welfare, and in principle, and inclusion, and also in terms of religious work, to make sure that all that, as I said, that the different religions be recognized, and the people of different religions be recognized, and be able to exercise their rights and their beliefs and their practices. So that's me in a few minutes.
And just, I mean, this is just to, before we move to the subject, also Jerusalem municipality, there was supposed to have elections in end of October, I remember, or yes,
Right.
but they have been postponed first to the end of January, and now they're postponed till the end of February, correct?
That's right. That's right. Actually, in part because my party, I am a representative of Meretz now, but I've joined a kind of a bloc of liberal left and central parties, 4 different parties. We've joined together, and we appealed to the Supreme Court to ask that the elections be postponed, because we said you can't have elections when so many people are drafted or mourning, or not focusing on the issues of the regular issues that the elections would be decided upon. So as of now, the elections will be on the 27th of February rather than as they were supposed to be on the 31st of October.
And just for people who are not aware, so Jerusalem, I mean, after 1967, after the war of 1967, Israel, with the occupation of the West Bank and Gaza, annexed East Jerusalem and made East Jerusalem and West Jerusalem as one. And for the people who know Jerusalem, the wall that surrounds Jerusalem is not exactly the borders of the municipality. So when we talk about Jerusalem, it's a bit complicated, because for the Jerusalem municipality, there are certain borders. There are borders of the historical Jerusalem before 1948, at least, which was much smaller than Jerusalem today. I think Jerusalem is the biggest city in Israel and in Palestine.
By far.
By far. Bigger than Tel Aviv. I was shocked when I found out.
More than twice the size of Tel Aviv, yes.
Yeah, huge. And Tel Aviv is huge. So the Palestinian boundaries of Jerusalem are different from the boundaries of the Israeli municipality of Jerusalem, and are different from the borders of the Jerusalem, or I mean, it is the wall that surrounds Jerusalem, the greater Jerusalem. And I think the borders keep shifting, so it depends on whom you're speaking about. You're speaking with and at what time we are. But for, so at least from the viewpoint of the Israeli government, so Jerusalem is a united city. However, it's also a very divided city. That's why Jerusalem is always in the news. So what are the responsibilities? So when we talk about, before we speak about the municipality work, how difficult is it between West Jerusalem and East Jerusalem when it comes to the responsibilities? Are the same services, at least theoretically, and actually being provided to both sides of the city?
Theoretically, all residents and permanent residents and of Jerusalem are supposed to get the same services. The fact is they don't. There's a great discrepancy between even the basic infrastructure in West Jerusalem and East Jerusalem, but also the services, everything from sanitation to school systems are very different at a very different level. I would say that in the past 3 to 5 years, there's been an improvement in the level of services. And also there's been a significant investment in infrastructure to narrow the gap, but it's still, there's still a huge gap. And as I said, it's reflected in everything from the sanitation to the sewage system, which there isn't in large parts of East Jerusalem. There's just no sewage system, and goes on to other kind of services. The only service that East Jerusalem gets more than West Jerusalem is demolitions. There are regular demolitions of housing or buildings that don't have proper permits. In West Jerusalem, there may be 80 demolitions a year. In East Jerusalem, there are more than twice that, and they're often whole buildings and their homes. And it's a terrible tragedy that I'm always trying to work against, but it is a huge problem. I would say also that there is a big difference between the level of services that East Jerusalemites get within the separation wall that was built in 2006, and those beyond the wall. Although according to Israeli law, it's all one big area, there was this wall constructed beginning in 2006, and it doesn't follow the municipal borders of Jerusalem. And even in the national project that was called 3790, a big, very important government decision to start investing more in infrastructure and schools in East Jerusalem, until this year it's supposed to change. The investments were only in the parts of East Jerusalem that were on the inside of the wall, and the ones farther out were not. I would just mention that one of the many problems historically was that when in 1967 the war broke out, it was actually begun by the Jordanians in Jerusalem. Israel annexed a huge amount of land. The site Jerusalem more than doubled. It not only included Jordanian Jerusalem, but included about 28 villages, and they were the infrastructure there was much poorer than in Jordanian Jerusalem. But you would think that after 56 years, almost 57 years, of Israeli control of East Jerusalem, that those gaps would have narrowed, and they have not very much, only in the last few years.
And but when we talk about East Jerusalem from a perspective, because it's so when we use this terminology, we use it according to international law. West Jerusalem is what the Jerusalem part that was that became part of Israel in 1948 and East Jerusalem is 1967. But also today there are many neighborhoods, or there are many settlements in East Jerusalem neighborhoods. But so that geographically that still is part of East Jerusalem, but in the municipality, do you use this terminology of West Jerusalem, East Jerusalem?
Yes, it is used, and I always say that it's the wrong term, because we have, as you said, in the land that was not built on in East Jerusalem, there's a whole lot of agriculture in East Jerusalem. Israel has built whole neighborhoods. Choma, it's called, Gilo, huge neighborhoods of tens of thousands of Israelis, and they're actually in East Jerusalem. That is, they're beyond the Green Line. They are in East Jerusalem, but the code word is to say East Jerusalem when you mean Palestinian. So there are Israelis who live in East Jerusalem, but they're talked about as if they're in West Jerusalem. And that's just, kept as it is, although it's a misnomer. Actually give a lecture about all the misnomers in the name, because it's not, there are a lot of Israelis living in East Jerusalem, which incidentally is part of the violation of international law, because you're of course, a country that conquers territory is supposed to hold on to that territory and develop it for the people that live there, but is not supposed to transfer its own citizens into the land that's been conquered.
We've had like one of the earlier questions. There's a number of questions, and we're not going to be able to go through them. But one of the questions, because it is related to the elections. So in the elections, my understanding, everyone who is in Jerusalem, whether you're Palestinian settler or from West Jerusalem, you're able to vote, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Officially, anyone that has a blue identity card that is either a permanent resident or citizen can vote. Unfortunately, historically, East Jerusalemites or Palestinians, permanent residents, don't vote in the elections. In the last election, there was about 1.5%, and that's been true for the last couple of decades, that they almost don't vote. And that, incidentally, is the reason why they're not represented, one of the reasons why they're not represented in the city council at all. My party has tried to get Palestinians to run with us and so forth, but to date there has never been a Palestinian or a permanent resident who has sat on the city council. That's one of the reasons why I spend a huge amount of time dealing with matters of East Jerusalem, because East Jerusalemites don't vote.
And Palestinians, I mean, Palestinians have decided for many years, although there has been some attempts where there were certain times historically that the Palestinians have used the elections earlier as a way to get the rights to get representation at the municipality council. but at least for the last 2 decades or more, Palestinians have almost completely been boycotting the Israeli elections. And the argument there is that they do not want to recognize, or we do not want to recognize, the legality of the occupation by being part of it. Although there are more and more voices that say that it could be a helpful way to advocate for your rights within the municipality council. But yes, everybody has the right to vote, even if you're if you're like an expatriate with a temporary residence, you're allowed to vote. I understand, or you have to be also like with a long.
You have to have a permanent residency status. So there are people that will leave and come back and so forth, but they have to have permanent residency. Incidentally, Palestinians can, in East Jerusalem, can also apply for citizenship, but very few do. And those that do can also vote for the Knesset.
Yes, but most Palestinians in East Jerusalem do not have the Israeli passport, so they cannot participate to the elections. Some months ago, it was very much in the news. I mean, before October 7th, I think it was around August, if I'm not mistaken, that there was a new plan for the municipality that was launched. It was a little bit, there were some back and forth, whether the budget for it would be approved or not. Do you have information about the new or one of the plans of the municipality that has to be development with the development of East Jerusalem?
You mean the 5-year plan, the investment plan?
Yes.
Yeah, well, there was a 5-year investment plan that began in 2018, was approved for 2.1 billion shekels, and that ended in 2023. And the whole debates that were going on this summer were how much the new 5-year plan would be for improving the infrastructure of East Jerusalem. And originally they talked about, there are people who talked as much as 8 billion shekels. And then they said they would double it from 2.1 to 4.2. In the end, it ended up as pretty much the same 2.1 or 2 billion shekels for the next 5 years, which is disappointing because if it's 2.1 billion shekels in 2023 is actually less, can get you less than in 2018. So it was very disappointing to me and to a lot of people in the municipality, but that was a government decision. I mean, what the government does, it portions, it was going to make this plan and then basically do these investments via the municipality.
The plan, some people felt that some people were looking at it in a positive note, that this is actually going to do some improvements, especially on the economic and infrastructure areas in East Jerusalem, and that might be like, it's a good thing. Others were very skeptical. What's your own opinion about it?
Well, I think any addition is good. I think, we have to invest in the roads there. We have to build more schools. We have to do more for the children. We have to do more for employment. There are a lot of things that we have to do. So 2.1 billion is better than nothing. I mean, this was a first big effort to, in a concentrated way, try to fill in the gaps in the development that, were never invested in East Jerusalem, even after 56 years. But 2 billion shekels, when you think about it, and you look at the whole budget of Jerusalem, is not that much money. The Palestinians are 40% of the population of Jerusalem, and the annual budget is 8 million plus another 6 million for investments. Depending on how you want to calculate it, it's 14 billion shekels a year. So 2 billion over 5 years is not very much. Now, of the 16 million, of course, every year a certain amount is spent in East Jerusalem, but not 40%. And one of the things that I and my party have been doing all along the way is to try to correct and improve the budget so that the people of East Jerusalem, the Palestinians in Jerusalem, who are 40% of the population, will actually get 40% of the budget. And that's not the situation today.
So the annual budget of the municipality is 14 billion shekels?
Yes, approximately. I mean, Yeah.
So for 5 years, we're talking about 70 billion shekels. Almost.
Yes.
And so 2 billion is Palestinians, although are 40% of the population, get like around like 5% of the budget. That's...
Yeah, well, no, this is I want to be careful here. This the Palestinians in East Jerusalem do get a part of the budget every year. I mean, of the 14 million shekels, a certain percent of it, maybe 20%, is spent every year on East Jerusalem. I mean, we do fund it, but this was a special investment plan, and it was supposed to be, you know, create a revolution in East Jerusalem, and it's not changing. I mean, it's improving things, but not enough. And so, as I said, Palestinians, if you look at the 14 billion shekel budget, the Palestinians do get a significant amount. We do pave roads every year, and there are sanitation workers, and there are trees being planted, and all kinds of things. But they don't get anywhere. They don't get 40%. So, and this big 2 billion shekels, it sounds like a lot of money, but when you're talking about a big city, it's not so much.
There has been a court order by the Israeli Supreme Court saying that there aren't enough classrooms in East Jerusalem, and I think before 23 years or so, I think there were 20,000 classrooms missing, or if I'm not, or 20,000.
No, it wasn't 20,000, but there was a court decision that forced the Jerusalem municipality. Actually, it's the Department of Education, because the Department of Education funds the building of the schools. Forced the Department of Education start funding and building schools, and we have been building more schools, but not enough. Next year, we're supposed to build more, but the problem is the population is growing very quickly, and we barely manage to keep up with the growth of population. There have been, unfortunately, since most people in the municipality have not been very considerate and not very concerned with the needs of the Palestinians in the city. There was also a court case demanding that they build more parks in East Jerusalem because there weren't enough parks. There's also, and they've been adding them right now, where there are 2 plans that I'm trying to push through to get 2 parks built in Jabal Mukabir. It's a neighborhood of maybe 25,000 people, and up till now they had no playgrounds for the children at all. There was also a court case brought against the Minister of Health.
In Jabal Mukabir, there isn't a single park?
No. A playground for children, no.
No.
So we're now working on 2, but that was in part because of the court orders. And there's also a case brought against the Ministry of Health and the municipality because there was a lack of what are called tipot chalav, mother and child clinics, which they have all over Jerusalem. There were, I don't know, remember the numbers exact, but 20 some in West Jerusalem, and I think only 3 or 4 in East Jerusalem. So we've been building more. But this just goes to show how important the justice system is in Israel, because it's been forcing the municipality to do things that sometimes the members of the city council didn't want to deal with. So there is an improvement, but these are just 3 examples of things where there's a real lack of investment and lack of attention to the population of East Jerusalem, which is in part because they started off, you know, there were little farm villages as compared to what would be the capital of Israel, but still, after 56 years, you would have expected they would have narrowed the gap, and it hasn't been narrowing fast enough.
So but also I think the Orthodox Jewish community in East Jerusalem, they also have a very high growth. Do they have the same problem when it comes to the education or classrooms? Or
they also actually are short of classrooms. And there's also a court case about that they didn't have enough classrooms there, but they're slightly more missing in East Jerusalem. And also there are all kinds of ways in which the municipality helps the ultra-Orthodox community that it doesn't and can't help the Palestinian community. For example, the municipality has buildings that its property, so it can allocate buildings and turn them into schools for ultra-Orthodox children. It does that all the time. Whereas in East Jerusalem, the city has no property almost. So it sometimes rents out buildings and then it works out not very well. They've, in many cases, rented apartment buildings and tried to turn them into schools, and doesn't work very well. But so there are problems as well with all the children in the ultra-Orthodox community, but the municipality has been doing better at solving those problems than it has for the Palestinians.
And you mentioned that that the Supreme Court, I mean, it's interferes. How, like, who raises these claims? Like when it comes to the municipality, let's say that there is somebody wants to like within the case of building new schools, is it human rights activists, individuals, lawyers, organizations?
All kinds of things. Sometimes it's a party, like people from my party. Sometimes it's people from East Jerusalem. Sometimes it's lawyers. There are a number of lawyers who have been very helpful in these cases. All different kinds of groups. There's something called the Association for Civil Rights in Israel that's been very active, and they've had a number of lawyers who spend a lot of time on the case of the school system and the classrooms. But I have a friend who's a lawyer who's now a member of the city council, actually, and I'm running with him, who brought the case about the playgrounds, that there are no playgrounds for children in many neighborhoods in East Jerusalem. So there are all kinds of possibilities. If anyone here wants to come and help, there are a lot of other things that that we want to bring to trial to force the the various government bodies and the municipality to fix.
I don't know if we have any lawyers. You're always welcome to come and I don't know. Does it has to be an Israeli lawyer to file a court, to go to court?
No, I think not. It can be Palestinian also or someone else, but also if anyone has any ideas, there's the things about the playground someone brought to my attention. So if anyone has ideas, you can ask someone how to contact me, and I'll happy to try to bring it up, because it's an ongoing fight to try to approach equality, let's say.
I mean, when we speak about equality, one of the major issues of East Jerusalem is home demolitions. And the logic, at least, there's two kinds of home demolitions. One is done, or there's a number of reasons behind home demolitions. The most prominent, I mean, sometimes it is done as a collective punishment if somebody commits a crime of violence or is engaged with any form of violence against the state or any Israelis. But most of it is because people they build without a building permit, or they violate building regulations. In many places in Israel, the government, or there's big building projects, settlements, or whatever it is called, or housing projects and so on. Is there anything that has been done or being planned for the Palestinian community, which is a growing community, as you've mentioned? Is there a place like for housing so that people don't have to resort to illegal building? Or
well, there are two different subjects here. One is about the illegal building. The problem is that again, in 1967, East Jerusalem didn't have, or a lot of what is now considered East Jerusalem didn't have neighborhood building plans. The Jordanians worked otherwise, and Israel didn't recognize the plans. And it is only in the last 5 years, and actually only the last 2 years, that we started working on it. In the last 2 years that we've gotten approved neighborhood plans that enable a person to get a permit, because you can only get a permit if there's a plan and then your house fits into the neighborhood layout. And that has been hugely lacking. And that, I hope, is starting to be fixed. There are a number of neighborhoods, Isawiya, I think Jabal Munkaber, parts of Beit Hanina. The city has approved building plans, neighborhood plans, and then individuals can come and get approval for their building. Now, about the government building, the thing is that the government builds on land that belongs to it, and the government, as I mentioned, doesn't have land in East Jerusalem. Where it does have land, we have been arguing that the government should be building them. For example, in the area. Those of you who know Jerusalem, Atarot, there the government has land and they're planning a neighborhood. And one would think that it would be a neighborhood built for Palestinians because it's right next to Kfar Ekev and a lot of places where there's a terrible lack of building. As of now, the government, the city are planning to build a neighborhood there for ultra-Orthodox. How do I know it's going to be for ultra-Orthodox? Because A, it says that. B, they have already filled in the neighborhood plan how many ritual baths and how many synagogues they want to build there. That is a terrible problem, and I think that should be argued,
That's in
and it
Atarot.
may reach court because, as I said, if they're taking the land in all the years since 1967 and all the building that Israel has done in Jerusalem, it hasn't built any neighborhoods for Palestinians.
Because I mean, it's in a way of the logic or of the Jerusalem municipality says that we don't have any land in East Jerusalem. However, East Jerusalem is filled with mega settlements.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it is these settlements, they become like they get confiscated from Palestinians, or they get, or
well,
they miraculously.
Yeah, actually, what you're saying, I'll correct what I said. They don't have land that they within the neighborhoods that they can build on, right? But definitely, for example, Har Homa is actually built on land that belonged to, I think, part of it Tuba, part of it Tzur Baher, part of it other neighborhoods, and it could have, and I would say I think it should have, and planned a neighborhood there would be for the Palestinians whose land it once belonged to, but it was I can't remember the word for it, but it was taken basically for building for Israelis. And that is something that should be corrected. I must say, I do have to leave soon. I told Omar in advance that I could only be here till 6:30, and I'm just getting reminded that I'm late.
Okay, Laura, no, don't worry.
So I apologize, but I'm very pleased to talk with you. And if you want to set up another meeting, I'd be happy to talk about anything and give you as much information as you like. And I'm grateful that you're interested, and I thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Laura, and good luck in your next meeting. And we appreciate being part of the meeting today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And if anyone wrote me something, I'm sorry, but I didn't. I can't both talk and look at the chat. So if anyone wants to say anything to me, I'd be happy to.
We addressed some of the questions. We addressed not all of them. It's very difficult. There's many questions in the chat. So please, you are free to go to your meeting.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm just a little bit late. Okay, so thank you very much, and best to you all, and I hope we will times will be more peaceful.
Thank you, inshallah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
So Laura, who's part of the municipality council, which is there's aims to have from the Israeli Jerusalem council, who also govern occupied East Jerusalem. Her term has finished, but there has been an extension until the end of February, where her next election are. She is from the minority of the left wing. From Meretz. Sadly, Meretz is a very pro-peace group inside Israel. Sadly, they failed to get a seat in the last Israeli Knesset elections. So that was sad news, because usually Meretz are the more pro-human rights, and they share many of the languages of human rights and equality with many of the Palestinian civil society organizations. But we're going to be having multiple meetings. We thought that it would be nice to have also somebody who works from the municipality and can give us a different perspective. In previous meetings, we've had human rights organizations that have spoke about the situation in occupied East Jerusalem and all of the violations that take place and the discrimination. And I think most of you are already very aware of what is taking place. So thank you for your patience, and please do accept my apologies because we were not able to deal with all of the questions and the comments that were placed in the chat. But for our friends, regarding Kumi is about rising up and doing action, and we've sent an action in the newsletter earlier today. Is Lily, are you with us?
Yep, I'm here. I'll lead us through those of you who are in the UK, the action that was in the newsletter, and I believe Ryan has just put them in the chat for us. Okay, yes. So for the UK, the website that's linked here is to the Redbridge Community Action Group. This is a grassroots organization in the UK that is fighting for an independent NP for Ilford North. And they just announced the name of the candidate they're promoting, which is Liane Mohammed. And they are organizing to have this MP appointed. So those of you who are in the UK, do visit the website that is linked here in the Kumi newsletter. Even if you are not a resident of Ilford North, you can share about this group. You can join their WhatsApp group and follow their Facebook page as they're trying to get this candidate to be elected. So yeah, on the website, and then the name of the Facebook page is the Redbridge Community Action Group. So I'll just give a minute for those of you who are in the UK. If you're able to look up this page also with your Zoom window. And then if Carla is on the call briefly to explain the action for Canadian citizens.
Sure, yes, I'm here. Did you want me to wait a moment or go ahead?
I think go ahead, because then UK's people can work on this while people in Canada can work on this.
All right. So if you follow the link in the chat or from the Kumi Action page, in both places, you can find the link to the petition. This is a parliamentary petition to call for an arms embargo against Israel. It's supported by Heather McPherson, who's an NDP MP from Edmonton, who recently just came back from, she went on a delegation to the West Bank actually to see and understand the situation there. So you click through, you enter your information. You do have to be a resident or citizen of Canada. There's required fields for Canadian addresses, and make sure you check your email, because after you click yes on the petition, it sends you an email that you need to click to confirm. Otherwise, your response won't be registered. So you can follow the prompts on that to fill out this parliamentary petition. Thank you.
Thanks, Carla. And then at this time, we want to continue to address the court hearing in the International Court of Justice. While the judges have yet to make their decision, we have the emails listed in our newsletter and on the Kumi Now action page. And there's also a link to a Reddit page with a sample letter that can be written to the judges for anyone from any country to write to them expressing your support for the case in South Africa, and to copy and paste each of these individual emails and send those using the script provided. I also have another sample letter that I will copy and paste into the chat now that has been updated with the most recent numbers. Are people able to have the email lists in front of you of the ICJ judges? Do people have this? Do you see it? Okay. So I'm going to put in the chat, because the Reddit page is difficult to access. I think it requires you to have an account to see it. So in two parts. I want to copy and paste this. So as you're composing your emails, you can take samples from what I've included. You can amend it, obviously, and then sign with your name, the country that you're from, as we're sending it in, with the world's call for a ceasefire for the ICJs to support. So we'll now give you all some time to fill out and send these emails. And if there are any issues, you can let us know in the chat. If you have difficulties sending the email while you're still on the Zoom call, we just direct you to the Kumi Now Action website so that you are able to, after the call ends, you can go to kuminow.com/action and still access the information. So you won't lose it once the Zoom ends today. Okay, I hope that's going well for everyone, and please feel free to continue after the call. Just one final update on our session from 2 weeks ago that was on the palactions.com website. If anyone has events that you know of that are happening in your local communities, in your countries, please continue to upload the events to that website. Or if you're struggling to upload them yourself, you can send them to us at Sabeel, and we will upload the event for you. If you just send us a link to the Facebook page or the information about the event, you can send to this email and we will upload to the page. At this time, I just want to make sure, Omar, there's nothing else that we want to share from Sabeel.
No, I think that's fine, Lily. Maybe we can mention also the conference or the next session that we're having next week.
Yeah, let's mention the conference. Go ahead.
Sabeel, for people who know Sabeel for some time, Sabeel is well known for the conferences that we hold every couple or 3 years. We haven't, the last conference that we had was 2019, just before COVID. And we are planning for our conference, for our upcoming conference that addresses religious extremism and apartheid, this November, in Palestine. So the plans are to hold it in person. The dates, if we can share the dates and the information, the link for the with the information, we will be sending it out in a mass email, so no need to feel pressured. And we hope that people promote it. Before the conference, we're having online webinars that will address the topics of anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and prejudice and racism against the Christians. So we'd like people to also to attend these events. They will be the last Wednesday of every month. So the next one will be on the 31st of January.
I think that's everything from us tonight. So thank you all for participating and listening and sharing the actions. Continue to write to your local representatives and call for a ceasefire, and continue these actions and be on the lookout for information for next week. Thank you all.